Good morning and thank you. Mm, First of excuse from my little bit of accent issues and hope I would communicate with you. Uh, when I saw this advertisement for this particular conference, I was conceptualizing a small project on understanding knowledge and power shift from a physical space to a virtual space. So it was like connecting between the knowledge and power and political agenda and social engagement, not in a physical space but in a virtual space. And how this paper is essentially I divide in three dimensions. One, the theoretical outputs and the theoretical conceptual and theoretical framework of how knowledge and power related to this construction of a life world. And the second part is basically I have done a survey. It's basically on methods and the data findings of this survey, and third is the conclusion. Towards that two major theoretical paradigms I wanted to bring to this paper through this research work is essentially one is phenomenology and second is the Harold Innis idea of the biases towards communication. And while connecting to the broad two theoretical frameworks, phenomenology of Husserl's, Suge, and towards the Zhao's and communication approach of Innis from biases of communication to empires and communications. And towards the flow of this paper, that from the theoretical identification, the paper proceeds with the attempt to understand the life world of selected Indian political elites. I will define how I framework them as a Indian political elites presented in the cyberspace and trying to analyze in the context of knowledge and power. So essentially there are two dots. One, the idea of this life world started with the Husserl's work, taken it forward by Alfred Struge, how he developed the two realms of life world, and towards the third realm, which is basically Struge and Luckman started, but it was taken by the American researcher Professor Zhao that there would be a third realm of life world as well. So if we see the connection, there is a life world in a physical space and how exactly it is replicating this life world in a virtual space. And in terms of understanding the connection of life world both in physical and virtual, there is a dimensions of understanding that the biases and communication of the Canadian scholar Harold Innis, from this McLuhan's to taking it to Harold Innis study of that how communication can be biased, and through 1950s his work of empires and communication, he was how he connected there are two kinds of media, time biased media and space biased media. And now we can see a media in a virtual space, cyber media, which is both time biased and space biased. So connecting to the phenomenology of life world in a virtual space and understanding a communication in the context of time biased and space bias, this entire framework I have constructed around two mega debates of phenomenology and communication bias. Then data discussion on the methods and adopted to collect data. I will come to that point, and towards the end I will try to connect that how Indian political elites present themselves in a life world of in their own construction of own life world in a virtual space by bringing knowledge and power together. And going before that theoretical construct, that phenomenology in the lens of communication, evolution and knowledge and power. So here I quote from again Canadian scholar Marcel Poe when he discussed about that Harold in his work, through the physical attributes of media pushes societies and ideas constantly in a new direction. Each media has a flow of from medium attributes to a network attribute, which creates a social attributes and cultural values attributes. These four chains of attribute need to understand when we attempt to understand any particular medium and what kind of social network it's creating. Then only we can connect to this social practice and values of that particular medium. Then with this kind of different attributes, I connect to this in its approach of knowledge and power with this communication driven by the new social media by creating a life world in cyberspace. So here that my attempt that there is knowledge and there is power. When time biased media is always talking about the power of this media, the space biased media bringing the knowledge aspects of that. So at the same time, if we try to bring a mega connection to phenomenology, when Husserl is talking about reality and myth are created in the life world. As my previous speakers already discussed, it's not reality and myth, it's not only a virtual space creation. It also created in the life world of a physical space as well. So for me, the all creation and manufacturing of consent, myth and reality is nothing new in virtual space. It's already there in terms of Husserl's work of this creation of life world in a physical space as well. Then, and with the time biased media to a space biased media brings knowledge and power together. As we see that here there is a media we have which is both time biased and space biased. So, to understand the time biased and space biased medium, there is a need to create the balance between knowledge and power. So, if our life world, the creation of myth and reality, is going to consolidate between both knowledge and power together. And that balance, and that also spoken by in Empires and Communication by Harold Innis in this, how that time biased and space biased media need to be negotiated. So these are the four major things I am looking at. One is life world in a mediated environment of communication known as cyberspace. Second, emergence of new political elites and their creation in the life world. Why in the I am talking about in this small research project new political elites, that considering the Indian political situation, now there is a constant transition with this modernization of this economy, communication shift, and a new generation of youth culture. India is going to be the latest survey of UN Habitat that with highest number of youth population in the world, which considers 64%. And when that it would be a highest number of youth population with all shifting towards a virtual space. So there is a need that all our present political elites to target that group of audience. So when targeting that group, those who are into social media, so there is a construction of new critical mass. That mass, when we have been talking about political elites and negotiation of critical mass, now there is been a construction of critical mass through this new youth, those who are educated and into social, they are into a new debate of political discussions. And at the same time, the interplay of knowledge and power becoming crucial because this media is both time biased and space biased. So, an individual life approach which was one step away from Husserl's and Alfred Schutz's life approach, which is constrained by the space and liberated by the time. When taking from Husserl's work of life world to the Alfred Schutz's approach of life world, when he divided two, one is constrained by the space and liberated by the time, but second realm of social world can be liberated by the space and constrained by the time. But here, that in this third work, which is both liberated by the space and liberated by the time. So here, when further division of power in the individual cyber life world between political utopianism and political dystopianisms. That when I'll come to my data part, I'll talk about how I am bringing political utopia and political dystopia in the understanding of life world of political elites in this Indian political sphere. So in this connection between life world and cyberspace, the collective intersubjective pool of perceiving, as explained by Husserl, is both universally present and for the purpose of humanity and society capable of arriving at objective truth. So it's, for me, the virtual space is nothing new in that. The same argument we have conducted since last couple of centuries in our physical space as well. So, and I make a connection to this approach of Durkheim's sociologist, that with collective consciousness, when you bring that physical collective consciousness and we relate to that virtual collective consciousness, that the same life world, it's a extension of self and identity. It's becoming, and again, that when we talk about intersubjectivity, and that I think Max Weber's contribution is phenomenal when he's talking about Verstehen, which means comprehending or understanding the level of meanings. So for me, essentially, the life world in a cyberspace is nothing. It is another construction of truth and reality. And there is a need to striking the balance between the time biased and space biased medium. And of course, as I little bit discussed, about Sud's division of two realms of the of the life world, the realm of consociates made up the individuals sharing a community of space and a community of time, and the second realm of contemporaries made up of individuals sharing neither a community of space nor a community of time. And to this, that possibility of individuals sharing a community of time without sharing a community of space, but Such stopped short of calling this possible domain as a potential third realm of life world. And this approach I am taking, which is developed by Professor Zhao, the third one, the consociates contemporaries, where the cyberspace, the location is a cyberspace, recurrent contact situation is telepresence, recurrent mode of contact is face-to-face, and recurrent form of relation is we relation, shared meaning of context is truncated subjective, and social distance is intimate anonymous. So with this third consociate contemporaries of life world, I am bringing the work of Harold Innis to understand the knowledge and power. So it's a new emperors that how Innis tried to discuss the both time biased and space biased media. I'm going to skip this considering the time constraint. I need to bring my data work as well. So contextualizing the Indian political social environment to these broader theoretical frameworks. So there are a couple of things. That one is there is a political stagnation since last 60 years. That one major political party is ruling the entire since last 60 years of independence. We got independence in 1947, and with interim change in between, but this party remains Congress since last 70 years. Then the alternative power. Alternative power is essentially the youths of this country. They are educated. They don't believe in that that stagnation of this power. There is a need, hunger for change. So then at the same time there is a third level, growth of internet and need for change. So there is an emergency of new socio-political class. They were never the party to the political change since last 70 years. The age group is 18 to 34. They are now becoming the vibrant socio-political class which is striking for the change. And for me, that I have with these Twitter accounts and considering the welfare priorities notion of governing elites, I have created the political construction of political elites in India. With this definition, I have checked, and I have taken 10 most followed Twitter accounts, political elites Twitter account in India. That from that 10 most followed Twitter accounts, I have seen that different political presentation in that, those who are essentially wants to connect to the critical mass, the youth. And as a data collection part, that there was in last 1 year there has been a new and very vibrant development that towards there is a political party which is the opposition in that they are right-wing party, and there has been lot of skepticism since last 70 years. People are talking about their right-wing, so it's they talk about one particular religion, Hindu, so there would be less opportunity for them to come to the power. However, there is a particular individual in one part of this country, and since last 15 years he is in the power in one of these provinces, but he has lot of controversial issues. In 2002 he had the biggest communal riot in his account. So the controversy is whether people are going to accept him because he is known as the crusader of development, but I had a bad history of communal riot. But because of this, I have and the opposition party is about to declare his name for the 2014 prime ministerial candidate of the India. So my approach is to understand how people are going to accept the ultra radical individual as their leader in 2014 election. And I have in September 15, the opposition party declared the name of Mr. Narendra Modi, the 2014 election prime ministerial candidate. So after selecting all these 10 political elites, I have taken the, I'll take 2-3 minutes. I have taken 5 minutes I have, okay. So I have taken all these 10 and I have taken 30 days before the declaration of this prime ministerial candidate, 30 days for the, the tweeters, and I have collected all these tweets manually and from all 10 political elites groups. And after collecting all these tweets, it was coded with my subjective interpretation by I am adopting the hermeneutics as the method of data analysis. Because when understanding life world, as Husserl's points that you need to bring your subjective interpretation with this theoretical framework. So data is analyzed by adopting the hermeneutics to understand the life world of these political elites while balancing the knowledge and power. So these are the basic tweets. These 10 political elites, the number of followers, it's all more than 10 millions or so, that in all these 10 candidates. And the most followers, the Narendra Modi, the first one I was talking about, he has the 26 million of Twitter followers within a span of 6 months. So with all this the data collected, that around all this from different political parties, there is a hunger for presence in this online social media, as there is a need to address this critical mass. However, when I have coded this data, I'll skip all these slides. Yes, I have coded the data in 4 major approaches. That one is dystopia, another is utopia, and second is the construction of image, and third is construction of image, fourth is the knowledge partner. And my argument is that how individual respond and construct a life world in cyberspace to connect the critical mass. When I understand that a dystopia, that means they say that basically essentially there is a dystopia, that there is the problem. I am not party to that. Utopia is what I am, my development, my approach for this nation to take it for the development path in next 10 years. And there is a construction of image towards that critical mass. And last one, I am not a dystopian, utopian politician. I am going to throw away the system. I am your knowledge partner. So let's come with me. Let's create the country, the feelings of we. So they created in this entire political things. And we have seen there are all these political elites. Some of these traditional political elites, those who represented the social media, they have still the notion of creation of a dystopian others and utopian me. And there is another new set of political elites. We see that number of tweets analysis that listen, I am not bothered about the dystopian they, I am utopian me. So let's consider, and there are new set of political elites. They don't bother about dystopian and utopian politics. They bother about that we are the knowledge partners. I am your knowledge partner. Let's create a new social world, new life world of mine and with you. So with and the issue, the prime ministerial candidate I was talking about, essentially he has created the balance. He has shown that in last 15 years, this is utopian me. And the last 15 years, government of India and dystopian they. And at the same time, essentially I have the knowledge and I can be your knowledge partner as well. So with this, and that how our representation of political elites has used in cyberspace to set the agenda through a social engagement. One is breaking the political stereotypes. Second, political elites are your knowledge partners, and we represent your utopia. Others creates dystopia. With me, who can relate, I belongs to you. And I would like to conclude with this, that there are three types of political elites, and their creation of life world is happening through this new social sphere, new cyberspace Twitter. That first, you see your reflection in me. I am more a knowledge partner than a power center, knowledge focused. The second set of that political elites of creation of life world still believe in the power centric approach of politics and carry in the new media life world. My world represents utopian and others are dystopians. And the third, I can bring the balance. I can present you the dystopian world, and I can present you, this is my last point, that I can bring that dystopian world, I can show you the dystopian world, and this is my life, utopian world, and at the same time, I am your knowledge partner. So here, essentially, the life world of Suj and life world of this, and the creation of emperors and communication herald in is, we can see that in the third kinds of political elites, where both dystopia, utopian is presented, and knowledge partner is created. Then last one is, I am here because I need to be. I can't ignore you, but I don't have anything to share you. So that's broadly, I am sure I'm running out of time. I can't, but of course we will discuss in our question hour. Thank you.
We're running a little bit late, but not through anybody's disobedience of the time, but we started late and then the glitches of the new media. But we are a serious conference. We're not going to cut our question and answer out, but maybe we could have the participants come up here. And I'm going to suggest that we have a 15-minute question and answer period.